if you're not motivated, you've got to get out of this sport because it literally is brutal. If you're not 100% in a race, you get killed. You know, you turn up on the footy field and, you know, you missed a few weeks of training, you go play in the back pocket, you lay a few smothers and a good tackle and save the game and you're hailed a hero. But if you're not 100% in any race, especially, you know, at a World Champs or Olympics, you just like get exposed. I guess, you know, I've been lucky enough to make every team and it's about getting into that routine where, you know, you get home from the previous champs and you start preparing again, and it's just routine, and you've got to create a good environment. And, you know, you've also got to be talented enough where you can sort of get through the domestic season at 85, 90% and still have something left up your sleeve to, you know, to go to Europe and go to another level. So, you know, I guess I'm lucky in that regard that, you know, I have got the ability, and, you know, I've been lucky enough to have a really good environment around me for the last 8 years to, you know, to keep making these teams. Before a race, in the 24 hours or 48 or even 72, I start visualising how the race is going to go and where I need to be. And if you're thinking too much 10 seconds before you race, you're stuffed. I worked a lot with the sports psychologist after London, and you know, because I felt that was my deficiency. I'd keep turning up and I couldn't race, and if anyone's seen me in the call room, I'm throwing a hacky sack around, you know, the same rhythm that I'm going to be running, and really that 10 seconds before, it's breathing and it's getting heart rate down and trying to control your arousal and your anxiety, and when that gun goes off, it's really instinct. You know, you've got to put yourself in the right place and you've got to do the things, but you've also got to be reactive. You know, it's the hardest thing about going to a major champs. You literally have no idea how the race is going to go, and you can't really plan for it. You've got to be ready to react. So, you know, that 10 seconds before, I'll often have my eyes closed and just concentrating on my breathing, just keeping heart rate low, and yeah, just trying to switch off and literally not think too much. I'm a really deep thinker and training, and I think that's why I like the coaching, and I had to separate that from, you know, the 24 hours before and not, I'd stress myself out. So yeah, just trying to really control the arousal levels and my anxiety before a race has been the key to, yeah, running well. You know, Nick sort of took me from being that, you know, that kid who did high jump and surfed and, you know, was just not really focused, and he sort of turned me into a guy who, you know, had a really good work ethic, you know, understand what was required and the motivation and the self-discipline, and he really showed me the world and really sort of, yeah, I don't know, just showed me what was required to be good. And you know, we worked really well for a long time and we had a lot of good results, but it just, yeah, London was just really hard, especially coming off Beijing. I'd been sick and it didn't work out, and when you put 4 years of your life into the Olympics and they don't go that well, you do a lot of soul searching. And you know, I'd always had the ability to run fast, but I just couldn't quite, for whatever reason, run well at a major champs. And I don't know if it was me or the training or whatever, but I just needed a change, and it was a really hard decision. And I was also coming off the back of some pretty bad osteitis pubis to the point where I couldn't run or walk properly, and so it was a really challenging 18 months post London. But yeah, I just needed to get the love of the sport back, and you know, I just needed to remember why I love doing it, you know, putting one foot in front of the other. And, you know, I started coaching some guys like Craig Appleby and getting a little bit more involved in that. And yeah, Andrew Russell's just been brilliant, you know, he's probably one of the top high performance guys in Australia, and, you know, does a great job at Hawthorn Football Club. And we just have a great relationship, and it's just really relaxed. And I don't know, we just we go through the process and we talk about the race and we go out and execute, and that's probably one of the biggest things. I'm just a little bit more accountable and a little bit more involved in the day-to-day stuff, and just really enjoying that, and you know, I still feel like I've got a fair bit to give, and you know, it's really exciting. Otherwise, to be honest, I'd probably be out. You know, if anyone's been to Monaco, I've been to Monaco and I was feeling sick and just off a plane and ran 3:33. So it's one of those magical places where, you know, things just happen. And you know, to run 1:44.4 and equal, it was pretty, you know, pretty ridiculous that it, you know, he wasn't 0.01 under or 0.1 over. But Yeah, Monaco is just one of those places, and look, I think we need guys like Alex and we need guys like Ralph and Ryan Gregson, and you know, they force you to be better and make sure that you're not complacent. So, you know, I guess without being an 800 metre runner, I sort of set the tone in terms of running 144 a few times, and you know, now Alex has stepped up, and then Ralph stepped up and beat us all last year during the domestic season. So you sort of need that competitiveness to keep driving each other, and I think, you know, the 800 is in a pretty exciting place, you know, for these next few years. Glasgow is probably the big turning point. You know, 5 races in 5 days and coming away with 2 5ths and being so close to a medal in the 800. It's sort of, I'd turn up to a lot of major champs and I'd run really fast times in Europe, and I probably went in with a bit too much expectation internally and perhaps internally, and just was never really able to perform, and made a bit of a change of environment and change of team and personnel, and you know, I just turned up to Glasgow and took each heat as it came, and you know, just trying to build. And you know, the first heat I snuck up the inside and won my heat in the 800, and that just sort of set the tone for the rest of the championships. And you know, it's about having those positive experiences and then, you know, drawing upon them, you know, the same way, you know, I turned up to nationals and was able to do the double. You know, I just had to, even though I was pretty nervous and I had 2 Australian record holders in each event, you know, you just got to apply yourself and sort of go through the process and just try and be as relaxed as possible. And I think that's the key, just being relaxed and being confident. It's probably something I just didn't have, you know, prior to Glasgow. Like if you look back over, you know, the 8 years, I've made all those teams, but every year I've pretty much run a PB or 333 or 144 or, you know, 216. So I've always had that ability to run fast. The 800, for whatever reason, just hasn't quite worked out. And I guess, you know, for a long time also concentrated on the 15, and it just happened that I'd race an 800 and get really close. So we're a bit more focused on the 800 now, and you know, it'll be interesting to see how the next 18 months go with that. Last year with Mosaitis Pubis, I couldn't really get the real high-end quality in, and I really couldn't get the quantity in as well, so we were a bit hamstrung with where to go. And this year my body's brilliant and that's all gone. So I think, you know, when I travel to Cologne tomorrow to start racing and training, I think we'll see a little bit more of that really anaerobic training that's will hopefully give me what I need to really compete in the 800. So that's where that is. I think the beauty of being good at both is when I go to Europe, I have the option to do both, and I can change it up, and it doesn't mean that I just become an 8 guy or just become a 15. And you know, it was really good to 1 week be taking on Rowe in Adelaide and the following week be taking on Gregson in Sydney, and I enjoy that. And I think it just gives me a little bit of something extra on those guys, that I can do both. So I'm going to keep doing both, and it'll just become a time maybe in the year where we need to move one way or the other, and I guess when that time comes we'll decide. This year for me is really about establishing myself as, you know, I look at guys like Nick Simmons and guys like Schott and Lewandowski who regularly run on the Diamond League circuit and make finals, and look, that's where I want to be. And so this year is trying to work out a way to get there, and I think once I come away from next year, from this year World Champs, and you know, come back here and get back into training, you know, London, Rio will come a bit more relevant, but right now you can't really think about it. And then, you know, Gold Coast, anything can happen in 3 years. I'm a real passionate Knox guy. You know, it's really quite phenomenal the guys that we've had come out of there. Like, you know, you got myself, you got Zach Patterson who's coming through, Ryan Patterson who's just a freak of nature. You know, you got Geordie Williams that's been a product of Knox. You got, you know, Kayla McKnight, you got Melissa Duncan. It really is quite a phenomenal 800, 1500 group, and I don't know what created that, whether maybe I kickstarted that or whatnot, but just down at the club there's a really good culture. You know, I'll come back from Europe and I'll turn up to police paddocks and I'll train with 50 kids on the weekend, and you know, I've always had a really great relationship with Richard Huggins and now more so Gavin Burren, who's taken a little bit over from Richard, and you know, there's just a lot of kids down there that love running, and they turn up Tuesday, Thursday, and I think that's the key to running well. You have to have that environment, and that was the toughest thing when I left Nick, was trying to create that environment, and I'm still trying to create it. At the moment, it's a 3-man team between myself, Zach, and you know, I've just recently got James Hansen here, but you know, without those guys, I'm nothing really. I'm nothing, and you need those guys around to keep motivating you and keeping you on your toes. And you know, I got sick in Japan, and then I fell down the stairs and missed a little bit of time, and I turn up at training and Zach's kicking my ass, and it's like, oh Jesus. So the athletics community it's seriously one that it's very accessible. Like, you can turn up to Listerfield on a Sunday and spend 90 minutes chewing my brain, and you don't get that in football. You can't turn up on a Sunday and hang out with Luke Hodge. So you know, the athletics community is quite a unique one, and yeah, I just love it, I guess. You know, I was in Janjuk Easter 2014, and I went for a run, and myositis pubis was just a bit of a nightmare, and I had an old guy run past me, and it got to a point where I had to stop and physically walk home. I couldn't run anymore, and I slunk down in the gutter and started crying, because I thought this genuinely might be the last time I ever run. And my old man was doing some K reps with me on the bike the other day, and he said, like, you can't keep doing this to yourself. You know, like, the first 50 metres I'd have to go through a lot of pain to get my body moving, and it dawned on me that time that, yeah, my quality of life's suffering because of this. But it was sort of, I said to my physio and I said to my coach, just do whatever you need to do so that I can go out like with a bang this year. You know, I had Com Games, and yeah, it's that moment when someone thinks you're going to take something that I thought, I haven't achieved anything near what I want to achieve. And you know, for a guy who a lot of people say he's got a lot of talent and whatever, I felt pretty unfulfilled. And you know, I'm just glad that my physio is smarter than I am, and my coach is smarter than I am, and they didn't panic, and they knew things were going to be all right. You know, and they've got me running the best I ever have. So I guess that's what excites me, you know, just literally trying to be better than what you've ever been before, and better each day.